Welcome back. The UAE's financial markets are closed today. Trading will resume on Sunday. So let's now take a look at the various currencies exchanged into dirhams, followed by the price of oil and a selection of commodities. After a 3-year slump in domestic trading, the London Stock Exchange has been given a boost with stronger than expected 2010 results. The LSE saw a 22% rise in profit to £341 million and sales growth of 7%, beating analyst expectations. This comes ahead of a planned merger with Canadian market TMX Group that will allow access to booming mining firms. LSE chief Xavier Roulette's strategy of diversification was seen as key to the result. He says UK equities trading now represents less than 13% of overall revenues.
We've seen strong growth in our fixed income businesses, particularly our government trading activities in the platform called MTS. We've seen strong growth in our ETF business, strong growth in our derivatives business with volumes up 19%.
As for the LSE's global competitiveness, Roulette says London remains the listing centre of choice, despite booming exchange centres in Asia.
Hong Kong is clearly attractive. There's huge capital formation happening in China. But in terms of their market share and the number of international non-Chinese listings in Hong Kong, it's very small. Liquidity remains very small indeed. London has both the depth of liquidity, the expertise, and I would add, a world-beating regulatory environment.
Germany and France surprised economists with their strong economic performance in the first quarter of the year, as Germany, Europe's biggest economy, grew by 1.5%, while French GDP was up 1%. Germany and France account for nearly half of the region's GDP, so the data has boosted European shares, pushing Eurozone growth to 0.8%. Experts say economists think Germany might grow by as much as 3% this year.
Germany is converting itself in the economic powerhouse of Europe again, and this is mostly due to the boom in foreign trade, and it's mostly due to the good connections, the close business ties that German companies have with emerging markets in Asia, mostly in China.
However, analysts are warning the German and French growth could have reached a peak at the debt-laden Eurozone economies, could weigh on Germany's growth should they reduce their imports. US stocks fell on Friday and the euro slid to a 6-week low against the dollar as the Eurozone debt fears came back to the forefront, accelerating a flight from markets pumped up by the Federal Reserve's easy money policy. Investors flocked to safe haven assets such as the dollar and US government bonds. The fall in US stocks on Friday capped a second week of losses, reflecting growing worries that stocks are on the verge of a pullback. The Dow Jones Industrial Average ended down by 0.79% at 12,595. The S&P 500 index was down 0.81% at 1,337. The Nasdaq Composite Index was down 1.21% at 2,828.47. Investors aren't worried about the US economy, but rather the global economy, resulting in a spike in volatility across several markets.
We're certainly wrapping up one of the most volatile weeks that we've seen in a while. I think the strength of first quarter earnings season was really priced in with earlier gains. And this week there's been much more of a focus on a lot of global macroeconomic issues. For one thing, we've got interest rates rising around the world, so there's concern that demand for commodities may drop. We've had higher margin requirements in a lot of different commodities. That's added to the volatility. And we've seen a stronger dollar, so that's also added to the volatility.
And Indians spent a record amount of gold through their debit and credit cards during the country's Akshaya Tritiya this year. The festival is one of the two most auspicious days of the year to buy yellow metal in the world's largest gold market, as Hindus believe they can get a lasting prosperity by buying precious metals on the day. In India, this year saw the number of cards swiped at outlets jump around 6 times the average of a normal Friday. In terms of value for the transactions, the rise was 111% above average, as well as the number of transactions. Industry experts say that higher prices of gold added towards this value increase. After the break, we have a look at the day's sports news, so stay with us.